Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over another 5 openings you must know to improve at the game of chess. If you don't know these openings, then it's going to be extremely hard for you to improve and you're going to be stuck at the same rating. This video can be used for people of all skill ranges, from intermediate to advanced to even 2000 onwards. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first opening I'm going to be going over is called the French Defence. The French defence starts with e4 and then black responds with e6. White then plays d4 and you thrust your d pawn into the centre and play pawn to d5. Normally, after this move, white normally develops their knight to c3, and in this variation, the person playing black plays bishop to b4, pinning the knight to the king. White then responds with e5, locking the centre down. This is called the advanced variation. And black then plays c5, attacking their d pawn. The French defence is a very solid opening for white and for black. Today I'm going to be showing you a game from Johann Sebastian Christensen versus Abdermanu Mishra, both grandmasters. And this is how they play the French, so you can get a good sense of the sort of position you want to aim for. So after the move c5, white responds with bishop d2, developing their bishop out, and maybe getting prepared to castle queenside. Black then plays knight to b5, developing their knight, because they can't put their knight on f6, because the pawn blocks that square. Next, white plays knight to b5, threatening a discovered attack on the bishop. And if the bishop doesn't take the bishop on d2, then the bishop will take the bishop on b4 and double black's pawns, and they will be in a worse position. So black has to take the bishop on d2 with check, queen recaptures, white looking ready to castle queenside and create a battery with the queen and rook, while also having the knight on b5, creating lots of pressure in the black position. Black can play a6, kicking the knight out right away, but they decide to castle. And this is the sort of setup you want as black when you're playing the French defence. This can lead to a very tactical middle game, and black coming out victorious and winning the game, or maybe drawing against white. If you memorise the theory to the French defence, then you are sure to improve at the game of chess and skyrocket your elo, and win countless games, like Johann Sebastian Christensen did in this one, by creating a ruthless attack towards his white opponent that was simply too powerful for white to do anything about, and ended up losing the game. The next opening I'm going to be going over, and one of my favourites, is called the Caro Kann Defence. This is a very fun opening and leads to very tricky middle games where black can hopefully come out victorious. This opening's very good, and better than the French in my own opinion, because the bishop on f8 gets out early during the game, unlike the French bishop, which stays back and can't really attack anything. So, the moves go like so. White plays e4, taking space in the centre, and you play pawn to c6, the Caro Kann, preparing to play d5 and take more space in the centre. White then plays d4, solidifying their centre, controlling the squares in the middle, and then you play d5, striking in the centre, making white have to commit if they want to take the pawn or defend it. In this game, however, white plays knight to c3, defending the pawn, and after d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight f6, the knight has to either take or retreat, not wanting to lose a tempo and wanting to double black's pawns. White then plays knight takes knight, check. Black then plays e takes f6, not wanting to create a weak g7 square, potentially, if taking like so. The game then goes c3, defending the d4 pawn for white. Black then plays bishop d3, developing their dark squared bishop, preparing to castle. White then follows, playing bishop d3, developing their white squared bishop, looking to castle. And you as black would castle here and want to play rook to e8 on the next move. So after something like queen c2, you would then play rook e8 check, attacking the king and forcing the king to either move or have a piece pinned to it. This game I'm showing you was from a game from Hans Niemann, a strong grandmaster, and Siem van Dale. Hans managed to win this game as black, and if you play the same sort of moves and understand the ideas behind those moves, then you can hope to win as well. The third opening I'm going to show you, and also another one of my favourites to play, is the Scandinavian Defence. This defence against e4 is very strong at low level, as you can catch your opponent off guard with your queen being out so early, and they can maybe fall for some traps. It's also good in low time control games as well, because they can also fall for the same traps as well. And even high rated players find great success in this opening, like the player I'm showing you the game of, Mendez Aron Reeve, who plays against Alexander Rapinstev, which both players have an average of 2,500 rating. So without further ado, let's get into the opening. Scandinavian Defence starts like so. White will play e4, and instead of playing e6 like the French, or c6 like the Caro Kann, instead you'll thrust your pawn directly into the centre and play pawn to d5, directly attacking their pawn on e4. The best move here for white to do is to take, and you'll recapture with your queen. And after they gain a tempo by attacking your queen, you merely just shuffle your king to the edge of the board and play queen to a5. So the queen is still a massive annoyance to white in his position. After this move, they will normally play rook to b1, threatening pawn to b4, attacking the queen again and gaining another tempo. Next, you'll play e5, taking control of the centre. White will respond and play bishop to c4, developing their bishop, getting one step closer to castling, and you in turn will develop your knight out to c6, defending your centre, and the eventual push of b4. Next, white will play queen to h5 and try and create a double attack on the f7 square. You merely just kick the queen away and play g6, also going to free and kettle your bishop. And after the queen back to d1, you play f5, taking mad centre space on the queen side. All these squares are now occupied by your pawns, restricting white's movement. After f5, white will normally play bishop to b5, as shown in this master's game, and you'll just play bishop d7, defending, not wanting to double your pawns. And after knight f3, preparing to castle on the king's side, you'll play a6, asking the bishop where it's going to go, if it's going to retreat or take the knight. White takes, and black recaptures. White then castles, and black then castles on the queen side. Black is now winning with an advantage of 0.4, and later goes on to win the game, as it's a very tricky opening, and with low time on the clock, your opponent's sure to make lots of mistakes. This is why I recommend you learn the Scandinavian Defence if you want to improve at quick time control, or if you're a new beginning player, as it can give you massive winning chances if your opponent doesn't know the top engine moves. The next opening I'm going to be showing you is called the Nimzo-Indian Defence. It's very similar to the Indian Defence, where you fianchettle your bishop on g7, but instead of fianchetting your bishop on g7, you play bishop to b4, attacking the knight that white normally puts on c3. It's a very theoretical opening, but with this video and many more, you're sure to be able to remember the moves that you're meant to play and improve at the game of chess and expand your repertoire on what to play against d4. This game I'm going to be showing you is between Kirill Shevchenko and Daniel Bogdan-Dijk, both 25-2600 level players who are both grandmasters, and black ends up winning the game. So let's get into the opening. The opening starts with white playing d4, the queen's pawn opening, and you respond with knight to f6, the same sort of move that you play in an Indian. White then responds with pawn to c4, taking space on the queen side, and then you play e6, allowing you to get your bishop out, which is the Nimzo-Indian variation of the Indian defence. White then normally plays knight to c3, getting their knight out, and you will play bishop b4, the Nimzo-Indian defence, wanting to trade here and weaken white structure. Sometimes you trade, sometimes you don't, it depends on the game. Next, white normally plays e3, defending the centre, and you want to castle. After the move castles, you'd want to play moves like d5, taking space in the centre, and then developing your knight to here and here, and maybe putting the bishop on b7. As you can see by the eval bar, it's still very much equal here. Maybe you'll trade the bishop for the knight as well. But you know, just get a gist of what white plays here. White will normally play bishop d3, and you'll just take here, doubling their pawns, and this is an alright structure for black to play, and can lead to them gaining a nice advantage and winning the game. The last opening I'm going to be covering today is called the Grunfeld Defence. It's very similar to the Nimzo-Indian Defence, which I just covered, and the King's Indian Defence as well, and is a very solid response against white pawn to e4. It's played very much at the high level, and if your opponent doesn't know the theory, then you can gain a very good advantage. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The Grunfeld starts with white playing pawn to d4, taking space in the centre of the board. And you respond with knight to f6, developing your knight out and not committing any pawns yet. Next, white normally plays pawn to c4, reminiscent of a queen's gambit sort of setup, putting these two pawns in the middle of the board, taking lots of space. After this, you'll play g6, maybe going to flank out your bishop, and after they play knight to c3, developing their knight out and taking more space in the centre, you'll thrust your pawn into the centre and play pawn to d5, attacking this pawn here, and not allowing white to take any more centre space. Next, they normally play knight to f3, getting both their knights out, and you will play bishop to g7, like the King's Indian Defence, putting your bishop on the g7 square, fianchettoing it. And after they take your pawn, you recapture with the knight, and they will normally play e4, attacking your knight, forcing you to take here. This gives them a split structure and a weak a2 pawn. After that, you'll normally play c5, wanting them to take and completely wreck their structure and allow you to take this pawn here with check. White normally doesn't allow this and just plays bishop to e3, developing another bishop, and you will play queen to a5, pinning the pawn to the king. They then normally play queen to d2, breaking the pin, and you will castle. It is a very theoretical opening, with about 10 moves of theory you need to study, but if you know the right moves and your opponent doesn't, then you can get a sizable advantage. And that's how you play the Grunfeld Defence. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please make sure to subscribe, as it really helps the channel out, and turn on notifications so you can be sure to know when I upload next. This is a part 2 to part 1 of the series, so if you want to check out that video, you can as well, as it's on my channel, and maybe catch me sometime on Twitch when I'm streaming. And that's about all. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.